Reggie Aloysius Miller Jr. III, the Hall of Famer, on the call for the Mavericks Suns Game 1 last night. Game 2 tomorrow night at 10 Eastern on TNT. And Reg joins us. Now, Reg, Luka goes for 45. Phoenix got the win. What did you think of their strategy with Luka last night?
Well, again, and this is the luxury that head coach Monty Williams and the Suns are going to have in this series. They've got about 7 or 8 guys that are going to have their turn at guarding Luka. And it was a great performance by Luka, 45 points, but he had to struggle and work for those 45s. And they don't want to give him a steady diet of just one guy. Mikal Bridges started off on him, but if you saw in that first quarter, there was Jay Crowder, there was Chris Paul, Landry Shamet came in, Cameron Johnson. So they're going to just throw a lot of bodies at him, give him different height perspectives to kind of throw him off a little bit. But let's face it, too, the Mavericks did not bring the same energy and effort that we saw in those 6 games versus Utah. We didn't see any of that in Game 1. It was almost like they somewhat exhaled after beating Utah and now finally getting into the second round. They're going to have to bring a much better, especially defensive effort. They held Utah, the number 1 scoring team, to 99 points in those 6 games. Phoenix drops 121 on them. They shot almost 60% for most of the game. They dropped down to about 50 in that fourth quarter. But there was a glimpse of about 6 to 8 minutes of that fourth quarter where the Mavericks looked like the team that we thought this series was going to be about. They've got to extend that for 48 minutes, or this could be a very short series.
And I was watching last night, Luka moves at his own speed, but he also brings the game down to that speed. Chris Paul is somebody that I don't think he's overly athletic, but I think he's overly intelligent. That ability to have angles and find the spots. I still marvel at Chris Paul doing what he does. And I thought that there's some similarities at their ability to kind of bring the game to their pace as opposed to they have to kind of take their game to up to another pace. Do you understand that or agree with that?
I absolutely agree. One is 6'7" in Luka and one is 6'1" in Chris Paul. And both are the masters at playing angles that you alluded to. They don't rush themselves. They're not going to be in a hurry. And they understand where all their teammates are at any point in time during a point of a game or during a play. It's interesting how they go about it in somewhat different ways. They're both great at that high screen and roll. And they use, again, they're not overly quick, especially in Luka's case, but he uses his size, his strength at 6'7", and again, those angles to be able to get their shots off. But Chris Paul, look, he's going to turn 37 on Thursday. And he is arguably, Charles says this all the time, and I have to somewhat agree with him. He's probably the greatest leader, certainly in the game today. But he just understands how to play the game of basketball and get the most out of his abilities and his team's abilities. You don't lead the league in assists for 5 years and be at the top of the mountaintop. And at age 37, being able to do what he has done in these playoffs, in Game 1 versus the Pelicans, 19 points in the fourth. Game 3, the same thing, 19 points in the fourth. And the closeout game in Game 6 goes perfect. 14 for 14, and 11 of those were jump shots. I mean, at 37, it's just remarkable.
Who do you consider a dirtier player, or who does the league consider dirtier, Chris Paul or Draymond Green?
I wouldn't use dirty on either one of them. Okay. I think both of them look, they're both not overly athletic, and they're just smart. I wouldn't label either of them dirty, but they're going to do whatever it takes to win a ball game. I mean, see, that's like saying, was John Stockton dirty?
Yes.
Now, players that played against John Stockton say he was dirty.
Yes.
But to me, John's using his ability to do whatever it took to win games.
But you can still be dirty in using whatever abilities you have.
I would say, like Bill Laimbeer, to me,
he was dirty.
That was dirty. That's dirty. To me, that's dirty.
He was trying to hurt you.
Bill Laimbeer was trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
Draymond Green ain't trying to hurt you, but Draymond Green will do whatever it takes to win a ball game. Same with Chris Paul. I can't label them dirty.
Who would you label dirty? Who you played against? Besides Laimbeer, was Rodman dirty?
He was molded under a Bill Laimbeer.
Was Isaiah dirty?
He was the captain of the Bad Boys. Keep naming them.
Well, Joe Dumars wasn't dirty.
He was the gentleman of the dirty bunch. Okay? He would shake your hand after the game and say, "Are you all right?" The rest of them wouldn't even ask you if you were all right.
But Chris Paul gets this label, and Draymond Green gets this label. Well, they earn this label. Whatever that label is, they earn it.
I will say this. We talked about Bill Laimbeer, Rodman, Isaiah, Draymond. As a competitor against them, you hate them. Yeah, I didn't like them. I love Isaiah. But everyone wanted to play with them. I would want to play with Draymond. I would want to play with Chris Paul, Bill Laimbeer. If you're on their team, I'm down for whatever. Look, 2 championships in Detroit with those guys, 3 in Golden State, and Chris was in the finals last year and hopefully is working on his first championship. You got to do whatever it takes to win.
Is Draymond a Hall of Famer? Is he going to be a Hall of Famer?
Yes, I do. If you look at his Defensive Player of the Year, I think he's been in the running for that for the last, 4 or 5 years. He's won 3 championships. I think if Dikembe Mutombo is in there, Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer. Draymond Green should certainly be a Hall of Famer. Clay is going to be a Hall of Famer. Stephen obviously is going to be a Hall of Famer, absolutely. And Steve Kerr will be a Hall of Famer.
Well, I'm wondering about that. How many players do you see? So if I go Greek Freak, you just give me a yes or no. Yes, Hall of Famer, right? Yes. Luka?
Easy. Yes.
John Morant?
I got to see more body of work.
Jason Tatum?
Yes.
Joel Embiid?
Yes.
The Joker?
Definitely. The Joker's going to win back-to-back MVPs. You win an MVP, you're automatically in. The only MVP not in the Hall of Fame as we speak is Derrick Rose, and he was on his way to having a Hall of Fame career until injuries saddled him.
Do you think he's going to get in?
I hope so. It's unlikely, though.
Jimmy Butler.
I hope so, though.
Jimmy Butler, Hall of Famer?
Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. I will say this, and Tim Hardaway, who was inducted this year, but look how long it took for him to get. I think Jimmy Butler will be on that route.
Okay.
He'll eventually get in. Is he a first, second, third ballot Hall of Famer? But it also depends, do the Heat win within the next 2 or 3 years? Do they win it this year under Jimmy Butler? That will help kind of expedite the process a little bit.
Kyrie Irving, Hall of Famer.
Yes, he has a ring. Yes. First ballot, probably not. But again, he still has chapters to be written. If he wins another championship, certainly he could be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Devin Booker.
I'm putting him in. See, I love me some D Book, and he's so underappreciated. yes, he will be a Hall of Famer, and a lot more chapters to be written, because if the Suns end up winning a championship this year, he moves to the front of the line. Over a lot of these guys that – go ahead.
Donovan Mitchell.
No, not yet, but chapters to be written. Not yet.
Well, I know. I'm not talking about right now, but do you think in 10 years from now when we have a conversation
Right now, his arc is not trending towards Hall of Fame career. Right now, okay. I would say that. For just being honest, right now it's not trending that way.
Rudy Gobert.
Yes, because I look at Rudy like Dikembe. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, he'll be a Hall of Famer.
We're talking to Reggie Miller, the Hall of Famer, of course, former UCLA great and Indiana Pacer Hall of Famer. You know, DeAndre Hopkins got popped for performance-enhancing drugs. How prevalent do you think performance-enhancing drugs are in the NBA?
Again, I don't think, especially in the game of basketball, I see it in football because, I mean, look, those guys, they take a beating and they bulk up their bodies. I don't see that in the game of basketball. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but they're doing it in baseball. I just think they're doing it in any sport, every sport, if you can get an advantage. NBA, it's a grind, and you know what? You guys get banged up playing a lot of games there. You want recovery. I certainly
it's all about recovery. To me, it's all about recovery because you play 82 games and sometimes 4 games in 5 nights. I could possibly see it. I personally never saw it, but let me just tell you this: if you told me, and I think you and I've had this conversation before, if you told me there was a pill that I could take, that I could jump like Michael Jordan, and I could palm a basketball like Michael Jordan, and I was as fast as Michael Jordan, would I take it to compete with him? I'm not saying I would. But what I'm saying is,
what if you're not getting caught?
That way.
What if you know you're not going to get caught?
That way. You could tell me that. If I could jump, if I could run, if I could ball like that to be on a competitive level with MJ or Magic or Bird, I may have thought about it, people. Not saying I would have, but boy, I would have thought about it.
But if nobody found out about it, and I said I can give you a pill that will make you have Michael Jordan qualities.
I'm coming for you, Black Cat. Sign me up.
But could you have his personality, though?
I will say that, it's funny because I think last week you were talking about Winning Time and the portrayal of Jerry West.
Yeah. And
how Winning Time, is making him out to be this crazy. All football, baseball players, basketball players, we're all crazy. We're all somewhat like Jerry West. I'm not saying it's true, by the way, because Jerry is a great guy, and I've known him for 25, 30 years. The portrayal is not true of what Winning Time is, but we all have a bit of a-hole in us. All of us are like that. So,
yeah, but you didn't punch a teammate, did you? Like Michael did.
He?
Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I got in a few fights with my teammates. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my behind kicked.
Well, you picked on the wrong guys because everybody was bigger than you.
Look, I got in a fight with Dale one time, Dale Davis, and he's one of the meanest dudes the game has ever seen, and he beat the living crap out of me. I will say this: it was worth it. I got his respect, but I got the crap beat out of me. But hey. And here was our motto, Mark Jackson and I always said, we never took on a fight with anyone smaller than us. Like, I couldn't fight
Travis Best?
Any guards. Any guards 6'5" or below. So our rule was 6'5" or up, you had to fight. So any power forward or center, it was on. But anyone that was a point guard, you couldn't go at it because it wasn't a fair fight. We treated it as boxing. Stick to your class or up. So, yeah, I took on Dale, and they'll beat the living crap. He was one of the fights I had on my teams. But that happens all the time. All the time you get into it with your teammates.
You mentioned Mark Jackson. He's up to be, at least in line, possibility to be Sacramento Kings head coach. Can't you jump in front of this and protect Mark from the Sacramento Kings, Reggie? If you're a true friend, can't you help Mark help himself?
Well, okay. Well, funny you say that because everyone was saying the same thing when he took the Golden State job. What are you doing? Who are they? Steph and who? You guys drafted Klay Thompson? Who's this Draymond Green kid? And he turned them around. Now, he wasn't there at the end and got fired after a year or two and handed it off to Steve Kerr, and they took it to different levels. But you hear Steve Kerr always crediting Mark Jackson for instilling the belief that these guys could win. So, to me, it's long overdue. I can't believe it's been this long that he's been out of the game.
Yeah.
I think he could have the same thing with Sacramento. Can he bring them back to the glory days of Vlade Divac and Chris Webber and OG Bobby Jackson and Mike Bibby and Peja? No. No, maybe he can. Maybe he can.
No, you know what gets in the way, though, is the general manager and the owner. So at least with Golden State, I probably had a better chance of developing a team because ownership and the GM is not going to impede my progress like we saw with Sacramento. When the owner or Vlade reportedly didn't want to draft Luka because he had a problem with Luka's dad.
I will say this. Maybe us talking about it, we're sending those positive waves out there to Vlade and to the ownership group. Leave Mark alone. Let him do what he does, and hopefully they can turn it around. Look, I will say this for Mark. There is only one way to go with Sacramento. You can't go any further down. You can't go any further down. They haven't made the playoffs in 20, 25 years. There's only one way to go. So if he can get them into a play-in situation, because the West is going to be loaded next season, if he can get them into the playoff situation and pull off what a New Orleans did and win 2 games and make the playoffs, it's like winning a championship. But you're right, Vlade, stay out the way. Ownership, stay out of the way.
Let me hit you. Let me hit you with one more thing here. People keep waiting for us to see the old James Harden, and I keep saying, no, he's just an old James Harden. I mean, he's 2.5 years removed from being a guy who gets 30 points a game, but he's not even forcing shots. And now is when you need him to do that, given that Joel Embiid is out. So what will you expect out of James Harden in this series with Miami?
There's a lot of pressure, and let's remember James Harden's history in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Not very good and very inconsistent play. But this is a chance for James to kind of change that narrative because your MVP candidate is gone probably till game 3 or 4, and you're in the semifinals against a Miami team that they play. It's a culture in Miami. Defense first. We play for one another, like-sized guys, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be rough on James Harden. And we've seen James shrink up come playoff time against teams like the Miami Heat. But this is the time for him to change the narrative. But he's got to be better. And the sad thing about it is I've always felt when James was engaged, and more importantly when he was in shape, I just don't think he's ever been in shape like his MVP years when he won the MVP and he was runner-up 2 or 3 years. I thought he was in much better shape, and he just hasn't been that same James Harden the last 2 or 3 years.
I agree.
In my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Reggie will be on the call for Mavericks Suns. That'll be game 2 tomorrow night at 10 Eastern on TNT. Thank you, Reg. Talk to you next week.
Theodore, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. And Danette, the best in the biz.
Are you guys?
From 9 to noon Eastern on this show, yeah.
I like it.